one. All right, Jen, welcome to the Nova University podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself to the people that are listening in and to the people on the panel?
Sure. My name is Jennifer Allums. I'm a local Fayetteville real estate investor. I do flips, long-term holds, and I run a construction firm.
Nice. Okay. Now, can you tell everybody like how you, I guess from the beginning, right? Because there's a lot of people that listen to this and they're from the ages from 18 to 30,
Right.
and they want to know like, what is your beginning like? How did you start off and what was your family like?
So honestly, mine was super rough. From the years of 0 to 15, I lived in a small podunk town and I lived in a neon blue trailer and I was picked on a lot and it was absolutely horrible. My father was super abusive and he has some mental health issues, alcoholism, a whole bunch of things. At 15, my parents decided to split. We moved, and that was kind of like my chance at a more normal life, but we were still dirt poor. So I grew up in upstate New York, and then it was kind of expected there that to get out of our city, well, it wasn't even a city, it was a town, you have to go to college. That's like the only way, college or army, otherwise you're stuck there. So from a very small age, it's been go to college, go to college, go to college, get a good job, go to college.
Right. And what did you do at that age 18?
So actually my senior year, I got the worst senioritis and I skipped over 100 days of school because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I got accepted into Alfred State on a full ride scholarship for nursing school.
Mhm.
And I chickened out. I couldn't handle it. I was like, this is not who I am. This is not who I want to be. So my mom wrote a ridiculous amount of, please excuse Jennifer for mental health days, notes for me so I could graduate. And then I took a semester off. My mom eventually convinced me to go back to school, and I went to Finger Lakes Community College, which is like a local community college there that pretty much everybody goes to. And I got in, did the grants, the scholarships, the whole 9 yards, and she convinced me to go by paying for a laptop. That was a big deal. We were like living it because I had a $500 laptop. I was so excited. I was like, I'll do whatever. That laptop, I still have it today. It's one of my most prized possessions.
Oh, wow. And so did you graduate college with a degree and everything?
So I did. So actually, like 1 week after I got accepted, I found out that I was pregnant with my oldest, Caden. And so I told his father, and he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know. We ended up getting married, moved across the world to Korea. I went to school completely online. I finished my bachelor's degree in 3 years online. I have my associates in business administration, my bachelor's in business management, and I did it all in Korea.
Nice.
With 2 kids working full time.
So you did all that in Korea. Okay.
Mhm.
And do you think your degree was well worth, or what would your recommendation be for those that are either going to college? Do you think it's well worth?
Don't shoot me. No.
You don't think it's well
No.
worth? Why?
Mm-mm. So if you had told me that the amount that I would have spent, okay, on college, so thankfully I did not spend a dime. I got paid to go to school with scholarships and grants. But if you'd been like, Jennifer, you paid $30,000 and you can have this degree, I'd be like, no, because it ain't worth it. For me, it was not worth it. Like what I do today, I don't need my college education to do. Everything I learned, I could learn off of YouTube University, palling around with people, going to investor meetups. You don't need it.
Okay. And what was the biggest struggle that you had at age 20 to like you're in your 20s?
Probably trying to figure out who I am, and I'm still trying to do that. But I think like especially when you're young, you don't know what you want to be, what you're doing, where you're going, and you have such like a hard idea of what your parents want you to do. And you're trying to figure all this out, and then just trying to figure out how to be adult is hard. And like honestly, that was like the biggest struggle for me, is trying to figure out how to be an adult plus like keep 2 little humans alive and live on the other side of the world. Okay. So yeah, no idea what I was doing at most of the time. And then I went through divorce and all of that, which was a lot for a young 20 something.
Yeah. And what was your biggest recommendation of like advice for those that are actually going through what you went through back then?
Um, just keep hustling,
Keep
because
hustling.
at the end of the day, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Like, you may not see it. So I've been through two really shitty divorces. Um, and the second one was like, okay, I've already done this. I know what I'm doing. Now is the time where it's like, make it or break it. Like, are we going to hustle this out, or are we just going to be like, well, it happened again, whatever. And you just kind of live in your circumstance. And I didn't. I chose to take a completely different path.
Okay. And going through your what started you onto your entrepreneur side, like into real estate and everything?
So I've kind of always had it. So I actually, when I was in high school, I took a class on entrepreneurship and I absolutely loved it. And it's always kind of been something in me that wanted to be an entrepreneur. And then I wanted to actually, my goal, what I went to school for was grocery store management. Absolutely
What the
love.
hell?
Don't judge me. So in Penn, New York, there's this little grocery store called Tops Markets, and I was like one of the youngest managers at 16. I was in high school. I absolutely loved it. I was like, this is what I don't want to do for the rest of my life. That is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. I do not want to work holidays. I do not want to work on the 4th of July. I do not want to work on Christmas. Retail life is not for me. Like, once you have a family and you want to do other things in your life, not for me. But I love the sales side. I'm not good at bookkeeping. Ask my accountant. But I love that side of everything. Okay. I love interacting with people and products and things like that. And I'm really good at sales. But it's definitely been an interesting ride, and I definitely never saw myself actually going into real estate.
Okay. And what was your first path into real estate? What was your first property like?
So path versus property is completely different for me. Okay, so
Okay.
my first path, so I've had my real estate license for almost 6 years. I'm getting to be a bit of a grandma now with it. And I went in that direction because I was working for a local food line managing, and I hated my life. I was drinking like a bottle of wine every single night because I was so stressed out at the age of 23. I hated it. And everybody hated me because I had a clean house. But anyhow, my grandmother-in-law was like, you should try real estate. And I was like, it can't be worse than this. And so then I did that. And then I did normal residential for a couple of years. And then I went into the investment side, and somebody turned me on to a great house, and I bought my first rental.
Okay. And with your first rental, how did that go?
So it's actually kind of developed a whole bunch of awesome friendships out of it. So my first rental, Shelby Osborne, turned me on to the lead. And she was like, Rico has this awesome house. It's a great house over in Rayford. Go take a look at it. It'd be a good rental. And I should not have bought a house then. Like, I was going through a divorce, and I should have been more concerned about securing my own housing than somebody else's housing. But I wasn't. I was like, I want to invest in a house. I want a rental. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy this house. It's going to be a great house. It's going to make me money every single month. So I went, I looked at it, I liked it. And I told the wholesaler, which is Rico, instantly, I want it, take it. This is my email, lock it up. And then he was like, okay. And I signed the contract within 30 minutes. And then we closed right after. Within like a week and a half, we closed.
Nice. And how much are you profiting now after that?
So I don't really like static numbers. So I bought the house for 124.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been 2 years. There was like 15K in arrears, so you can do the numbers on that where my loan now sits. The payment on the house every single month, I took it as subject to. That means subject to the mortgage. So that basically means that I'm taking over the mortgage exactly as it is. The deed goes in my name, but the mortgage stays in the seller's name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I took it over. Payment is $748 a month, and I've been renting it for $1,300. I could definitely increase, but they're awesome tenants. The house is all the time. I'm not increasing it because it's worth it. So cash flows very well, but I've come into the opportunity to be able to go ahead and do the BRRRR method and cash out on it. So now I'm doing that, and the appraisal came back at 207.
Wow. Okay.
I
And
put 5K into it. It was a lot of sweat. It was
sweat
mostly
equity.
sweat equity. Yeah, it was horrible. I worked on that house for 13 days straight. I flipped it by myself while working 2 other jobs. I mean, everything. I laid the flooring, I did the painting, I put in new countertops, cabinets, went through new light fixtures. I fixed the HVAC system, the garage door, new toilets, new faucets. I learned how to fix bathtubs. Like, I went through this whole house, fixed the front porch. And yeah, 13 days. It was horrible, but that $500 check was the best $500 I've ever made.
Wow. And what's your advice to those that want to get into that type of real estate where they're like doing the BRRRR method? How would they get started into it?
The first one is definitely always the hardest because you're afraid to take the jump. And you're like, oh, what if this doesn't work out? What if this doesn't work out? What if this doesn't work out? But it's like, but if it does work out, it'll be great. And honestly, I never planned on burning that house. My plan was I was going to pay it off one day or just keep paying on it and then eventually sell it to pay for my daughter's vet school.
Oh, that's nice. And now going from that, was it easier to get your other properties after that?
A little bit because I'd already done it and I knew the process a bit more and it wasn't so scary. Like you just rip off the Band-Aid. Not so bad if you do the first one. So after I did that one, I made some pretty awesome friendships. And like one of them was Richard Brew. I think you had him on your podcast. Yeah. So he actually wanted the same property and I wanted the same property. Oh, can you get a napkin, please? And I was faster. So he was like, I got to meet this Jen girl. And then that developed into an awesome friendship. And then we did Hemsley together. And then he did some private money deals for me for my flips. And it just kept rolling. So flipping is definitely easier because you know you're going to get rid of it, but your numbers have to be like point on.
Nice. And I know you do a little bit of like wholesaling. Actually, you do wholesaling, you do seller financing and subject to. Can you talk about your thought process of actually finding those properties? Like what type of tools you use and like how does the process work for, let's say, seller financing?
Sure. For like, say, a subject to deal. Generally, I will get a lead off of like, say, a contractor or a friend, or I'll be driving through a community and I'll see a super shitty house. I'm like, I've got to have that house. And then once I'm able to talk with the seller, I figure out what plan is going to work best for them. For an example, one that I just recently picked up, the husband committed suicide. And because she's missed so many payments, it's taken a major hit on her credit where she's no longer able to buy a house, even if she wanted to, because her credit's dropped so fast. She doesn't want the house. The house has too much equity and it's pretty much perfect condition besides that one room.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense. And then she can't afford to fix it to sell it. So the house is going to sit there and then eventually go into foreclosure because she doesn't want to deal with it. She can't afford to fix it. So how do we help her? The easiest option, because she can't really sell it and she can't fix it, is I come in and I take over the payment and then I fix her credit. Generally, it takes like 6 months for her to start seeing an impact and then about a year for it to be perfect again. I take over that payment. We fix her credit. She gets out from under that house. I have a great rental or a flip. So it's a win-win situation for everybody.
Okay. And is there any specific tools you use? Like I know a lot of people, they use like PropStream, they use Driving for Dollars. What specific tools do you use like for contracts or whatever?
So all of my contracts have come from other wholesalers. I've just created really awesome relationships with them. And then they're not opposed to being like, hey, here's my contract. Go ahead. You can change it however you need to. And then I just copy, paste, put it in Adobe. They've already been accepted with all the local real estate attorneys around here. So I know they work.
Nice.
And I just change it from their name to my name.
Okay. And once you're done, like, how do you get that person's information, like the seller's information? Let's say you see a shitty house driving by, you're like, oh, I want to find that house, or who lives in that house, or who owns that house. What do you do to skip trace that?
So there's a couple different skip trace programs. I generally just ask one of my wholesalers instead of paying for a program. Or if I don't feel like it, I always use like the white pages, or I talk to the neighbors. The neighbors are resources because they notice that that house is shitty and it's bringing down their home value. And 9 times out of 10, they're more than happy to dish on their neighbors.
Ah, the neighbors. I haven't thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
Mm-hmm.
I have knocked on doors, and I've
Mm-hmm.
knocked on this one dude. He was big as fuck, and
Mm-hmm.
he had a gun on him at first, and he was shirtless. I was like, what am I knocking myself into? And
Intimidation.
yes, and he's like, I'm like, hey, are you trying to sell your house? He's like, no, I've been living here for 17 years. But he's like, that house right there, it has a bunch of squatters there. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
really? He's like, yeah, that one. It's all I know it because I've been here for a while, and I always see squatters there. I'm like, oh, that's a thank you. I wouldn't have known that if it wasn't for the neighbors. So
Mm-hmm. The
that's a
neighbors will tell you everything. You just have to find the perfect neighbor. So actually, when I bought the house that I live in now, um, I went through, I had the home inspection, the whole 9 yards, and we'd been chasing this house. Zach and I had been chasing this house, Zach's a local wholesaler, for
Mhm.
about a year and a half. And initially we were going to do a flip on it, but like there's just been so many repairs, and like the roof over the course of a year just went from like, ooh, to oh. So yeah, it was just like beyond repair with so many things that it didn't make sense to go ahead and flip it. We'd be losing money. Um, but when I moved into the house and I closed on the house, I always introduce myself to the neighbors. I'm like, hey, if my people get too loud or we get too rowdy, don't hesitate to come yell at us and tell us to be quiet. Your kid's asleep, something, whatever. And he's like, yeah, did you? The neighbor was like, yeah, did you know that the house actually flooded about 2 years ago? And I'm like, no. He's like, oh yeah, there was like 5 inches of water all on the first floor. And I'm like, oh God. So I was fully expecting to find nothing but mold on my subfloor when we ripped up the flooring.
Mhm.
Perfectly fine. And I made sure to tell him as soon as that everything was pulled up that, hey, look at this. Look at this. Did you see this? No mold. Because you know what? If I ever sell this house or if I ever rent this house, guess what he's going to say? That house flooded. It has mold. Those neighbors, I'm telling you, they can cost you a sale.
They can. And let's say the newbie, right? The newbie's walking into a house. They're like, oh, they found the shitty house, and they're like, okay, they have it on their name. They have the purchase and sale. They go in and they're like, okay, what am I supposed to fix? What do they start off with? Do they start working on the floor? Do they start working on the roof? Like, what is your thought process whenever you're going through a house?
So generally, I always fix the things that are going to create me more issues right away. So if there's Lincoln, thank you. If there's a big old water leak and I know that there's water coming down, it doesn't make sense for me to go ahead and fix the ceiling leak because I still have an issue that's going to come down and it's going to make a bigger problem anyhow. And then the water's just going to keep coming down. So it doesn't make sense for me to do that. So basically, you have to find what your biggest threats are and start there and then work backwards. So generally, water, anywhere there's water coming from. So if there's a roof leak, you take care of it. If there's plumbing leaks, you take care of that. Anything that's structural, you want to take care of that immediately because you don't know how much you're going to have to rip up. And then you also always demo day, so you can uncover everything.
Okay. And do you always try to, let's say that roof is going like 18 years and you know it's bad. Do you try to repair that, or are you like, I'm gonna wait it off, I want to repair everything else, but the roof stays? Like, what is your thing? Is like, oh, like the HVAC's bad, but the roof's bad, but you don't tell whenever you're doing the refinance part, or do you actually do replace it?
So those things do come up sometimes, like they're like, oh, it's at the end of its life, you should really think about it. Have you so if it's getting a little, we'll probably replace it. I think my oldest roof right now is 7 years old,
7 years? Okay.
but it's always covered in pine straw. So that's a whole thing too, because pine straw holds moisture and yeah, it gets already leaking. It just wasn't done well. It's a 2-layer, so that's gonna cause issues. But for rentals, that's what I have. Because Londonderry is brand new. Gooden 7, Crevice is 3. The one I live in now is less than a year. I'm trying to think what else I got. Oh, Hawthorne. No, Hawthorne is original. Thank you. So when that one goes, ooh. But it's okay because like we plan for these things, and that's also another great thing about flipping is like when something goes bad on a rental, it doesn't actually destroy you
Yeah,
because you still have that flip income coming in.
of course. And what would you say about well, what's your worst like disaster, your worst flip ever, or your worst repair, and you didn't count for it?
I'm dealing with that right now. It is literally a nightmare. So I have a house that's over in Spring Lake.
Uh-huh.
I bought it as a 5-bedroom. And they told me, the sewer company told me that it was on sewer. I didn't need to worry. We're good to go. Everything's hooked up. I'm like, okay, yay, great. And then when I went to pull permits, because it has the basement, and we were changing some things around in the basement, they were like, hey, we want to check to make sure you don't have septic. And I was like, there's no way. You told me I had sewer. Oh, no, I have septic. And it's a 3-bedroom. And it's taken 4 companies to find the damn septic tank. And I can't do anything until I change the 3-bedroom septic tank to a minimum of a 4 to allow for 4 and a bonus. So yeah.
Wow. So just like
Absolutely horrible. And I did my due diligence. I went to the county, I checked all of that, and they're like, yeah, you're good. I talked to the sellers. They had no idea, of course. I talked to the wholesaler. He had no idea, of course. So I trusted the sewer when they told me, yeah, you have sewer. I don't have sewer. I have septic. And it's literally dragging on because it's just absolutely horrible to try and get somebody out there to fix it. We finally uncovered the tanks, and EPA should be coming back out to double check it and whatnot. But this house, I hate this house.
So what's your plan with that house? Are you going to flip it?
Initially, I was going to flip it, but I think now I'm going to hold it and burr out of it.
Okay. And who gave you that? How'd you find that house?
A wholesaler.
Wholesaler? Nice.
I went to a meeting in Raleigh and I made connections with this wholesaler, and definitely going to those meetings pays off because I'm first on his list if he gets a property down here in Fayetteville.
Mhm.
And he's called me multiple times, and he actually gave me my best flip of the year.
Wow. And those who are trying to work with wholesalers, what is it like? They have the listing and then they see the one that they want and then they have to put a down payment. Is that what you do?
So generally I'm a little bit different. I get lucky. They generally just bring it to me and they're like, hey, what do you think of this house? Do you want this house? What numbers make sense to you? Where can we lock it up at? And then I'll run my numbers and walk it real quick, like as a contractor for them. Because a lot of sellers, they don't understand what a wholesaler is. So I come in, I walk in, I'm like, yeah, I'm just the contractor. I boss all around all the guys all around. Yeah, ha, 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 ha. I take all my pictures and then I tell them, okay, I need to be at 165 to be able to make this work. They go back to the seller, they negotiate and come back to me and they're like, okay, we got it. You good? I'm like, yeah, we're good. Everybody signs and then I send my deposit. So
nice.
Okay. I'm
Okay.
a little bit different than most people that work with wholesalers because a lot of times you'll see a wholesaler that blasts it out to everybody and then everybody puts in their bids. I don't bid. I've gotten fortunate. I've created relationships and value, and most of the time they just bring me stuff now.
And what's your recommendation on those that want to build those types of relationships? What's like the thing they have to do?
Provide value, set yourself apart.
Okay.
Show why you're different. Make it easy.
Okay.
Because if you know that you bring me a house and I will close it on time every single time, and if not, it's better be a good reason why I'm not closing it on time, you're going to bring it to me every single time. I don't haggle with you over numbers. If it's a couple $1,000s, it's a couple $1,000s. We'll figure it out, but I'm not going to haggle you for numbers. So if you tell me it's 80,000 in my book, 80,000 makes sense to me. That's it. We're done. We're moving on.
Yeah. Okay.
And then of course, bring them value. So something that you can do to set them apart. Every time you drive for dollars, send them houses. Or like if they send you out to a house to walk for them, do it. And then when you're there, you're already driving around, checking out those houses. Send them like 4 or 5, whatever you find in that community. Be like, hey, these are also the other ones. This community, you want to lock them up too? Here's some free houses.
Wow, I like that. Like you could do that for yourself, but you give back to the people that are providing for you as well.
And it's also, what is your time worth?
Yeah.
Because it takes too long for me to do that, to do all the calls and try and lock them up and yada yada yada. It's not worth my time right now. I've
Nice.
got too many other things going on.
We have Alex here with a question. Go ahead, Alex.
Hey, how you doing, Jennifer?
I
Alexander Palomino. So I just got a question on fixed repairs on properties.
Mhm.
When it comes out to that, when you need to go get permits to do like structural repairs or base repairs for houses, in case it does go in that type of way of fashion, do you go through the city or do you have to go through a company to get those permits out so you're allowed to able to work on those houses? Like, what's the process during those time periods?
Good question.
So, okay, so basically, I'm going to go back to the house that's been my nightmare. How they made me do it, and this is only for Harnett County. Cumberland County is very similar. Not sure about Hope because I haven't messed too much with Hope. But with Harnett County, they allow you as the owner, if you own the house, to pull permits, and then you have people that work under. But the people that work under, you have to make sure that they have workers' comp and that they are licensed if you have to pull permits. So if you have to pull permits for electrical, you have to make sure they're licensed. If you have to pull them for plumbing, you have to make sure they're licensed, which does add a little bit of money to that. And then your workers' comp. So if you have crews and you don't have workers' comp, you need to get workers' comp to be able to at least do those permits.
Now, for those that might be
It
confused,
depends on the ordinance. So you have to figure out where you belong first. And so, like, say, sitting in that house, I belong in Harnett County. I'm outside of city limits, so I don't have to worry about the city. So the worst thing that could happen is you go to the city and they look up the address and they're like, you don't belong here. And then they send you on down the road to the county. And then the county pulls and they're like, yep, you belong here. And then they help you with your permits.
nice. And can you repeat what they would need, Jennifer? So they need workers' comp, they need to be licensed, and what was the third thing, or was it?
So generally, when you're pulling permits, if you plan on doing a flip, they need to be, and it's not going to be your own personal home. They need to be licensed, and they need to have workers' comp, and you need to have general liability.
General liability, okay. And if let's say they don't have any of that, are there any loopholes, or is there anything that you should have for them that you can get for them?
So loophole to do that is, well, there's actually a couple, depends on how you want to do it.
Go ahead.
I'm doing a loophole. Generally, we don't run workers' comp unless we have to, because workers' comp gets very expensive. But we do it based on our jobs and how much I pay my people and who's going to be working on those jobs for workers' comp. And then another loophole is if you don't sell the house, so say it's going to be a rental or you're going to live in it, then you don't need workers' comp and you don't really need to pull all the permits, but it's a good idea. It's a highly recommended thing, but you don't need your workers' comp and you don't need your general liability.
Okay. But for every project that you do you try to pull permits, or do you always try to go get permits?
So it depends on what we're doing. It depends on what we're doing. And then also the county and everything. So there's certain things like in Harnett County, they're now making it like new rules of like some of the Raleigh stuff is coming down. Where if you even hang a couple sheets of drywall, you have to pull a permit. And for us, like, you can hang a couple sheets of drywall because you accidentally just got like a leak, and then I have to wait 3 weeks for you to come back to check my drywall. So sometimes we don't talk about the drywall that we hung. But beyond that, electrical, plumbing, all of that, yes, we do. Framing, we do. Yeah, because if we're flipping, we need to have, HVAC system. You need,
yeah.
Yes.
Now, for getting the process of the permit, should the person go to their county or to their city first?
Figure out where you belong. Because sometimes when you buy the house that you are not in city limits. You know that you're in the county limits. So you have to figure out where you belong first, and that'll tell you exactly where to go.
And how do they figure that out? Is there like a website that they use to find that, or should that be in a certain?
So you can check it like on the GIS maps. If you have a real estate agent that's helping you, Ask
Okay.
them.
Yeah.
Also check what taxes you're paying. Because if you're paying city taxes and you're paying county taxes, that's your answer right there. You're in city limits.
All right. City taxes are probably higher, right? Wow. Yep.
That's
We
why
got
everybody likes Hope County, because you only pay county taxes.
Yeah.
You don't pay city and county like you do in Fayetteville.
Matt, you had a question? I know I said raise your hand, but there's a button that raises your hand, not actually physically.
Honestly, I don't be using Zoom. My bad. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good.
I'm Matt. Nice to meet you. I just had a question. What do you usually go through for your properties? A wholesaler or a real estate agent?
So I am a real estate agent. So generally, I don't find any of my deals with real estate agents. And I do believe that most of the deals on the MLS are a little bit inflated.
Yeah.
Mhm. So generally, most of my stuff I find off market with wholesalers, or I find it in my sphere of influence.
I got you. And my bad. It's like, just real quick. Would you recommend? I'm Fahaven recommend like I get my real estate license, getting into it. I was just curious, like, because you seem a little bit more experienced. Would you recommend like everybody trying to get into like acquiring a lot of rentals? Because I'm more interested in rentals than flips. Would you recommend that I get my real estate license?
I would. I definitely would, because if you ever, okay, so couple different reasons. Okay, so if you find an awesome turnkey rental, okay, and I actually have a free portfolio that was just brought to me by another agent.
Can
if
you
they
label what a
bring-
turnkey is real quick, Jennifer?
A turnkey basically means just that. You can walk up to the door, you can turn that key, open the door, and you are ready to go. You are in business. You're ready
So
to
you
turn
don't
it
need
into a
to do
turnkey.
no work on it?
Correct.
Okay. So turnkey.
It's
I
already
got
in
you.
perfect condition. You don't have to do anything. So like another agent, a local agent brought me 3 properties for like $100K each. And yeah, good deal.
That sounds good.
But turnkey.
3 properties is turnkey, like 100K each. That's not bad.
Yes, but the issue there is they are all rented substantially too low. And they also have, one of them has a tenant from hell that won't let you in the property to like save your life. Like when they were trying to like put in a new HVAC system, she refused entry. And it's like, we're literally trying to give you cold air. Let us in. But anyhow, so example here, the seller's already prepared to pay something, a brokerage fee, okay, assuming it's 3%. So 3% of $100,000 is yours if you have your real estate license, and you can use that and get that back and then use it to buy more rentals or use it as a discount off your rental. Does that make sense?
So that's what's up. Yeah. So yeah, so you as soon as you make the purchase, you already get like $3,000 right back right away, right? Yeah. My bad. I'm driving right now. I don't want you to think I'm not like.
Nope.
I'm in traffic, but like I'm
Sometimes
trying
I
to
talk fast because I'm from New York.
No, that's fine. Honestly, I talk fast too. I've been drinking like 3 cups. Like I'm not sure if you heard of Death Wish, but I've been drinking like 3 cups of that, so I'm wired right now. So honestly, you're speaking like the perfect rate for me. I'm not even lying. But yeah, so I really do appreciate that. So yeah, so that's interesting.
So that's number 1 reason. And then 2, you want to know the laws and everything like that. So if you're holding rentals, you don't want to do something stupid.
And then you screw up all your work. Yeah, exactly.
Because you're gonna get sued. So you don't want to screw all that up. So know the rules. Basically, in real estate school, the only thing they teach you is how to stay out of jail. So police go to learn how to stay out of jail.
Don't get in jail. That's how you lose. Like Monopoly.
That's all they teach in real estate school, is to stay out of jail and how to read the contracts. So if anything, if you just want to do rentals, those would be my major 2, because you can get paid to buy your rentals and to stay out of jail.
Yeah. Okay.
And then
So,
you
yeah,
can also manage your own rentals if you ever wanted to, but then you also are under the assumption that you know better and you will do better than the average Joe. That means that you must have trust fund accounts and all of that set up.
Oh, geez.
Trust accounts.
Yeah, so I didn't even think about any stuff like that. Honestly, I didn't even know like trust funds were involved or anything like that. Oh, wow.
I misspoke. It's not trust fund, it's trust accounts. So basically, when you get, say their deposit is $1,300, the North Carolina Real Estate Commission says you need to set those funds aside in a specific account And then if they gain interest, you have to give that back to them and things like that. But those accounts, that fund always needs to be there and accounted for. And if you
Okay.
are a real estate agent, you need to know better to always keep it in a fund that's dedicated.
So is that like a business fund, like a LLC? Like,
No, it's just a bank account.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. I got you. So
Yep.
thank you for answering my question, though. I appreciate that. So yeah, go with wholesalers and definitely, because honestly, I feel like that's a whole different, like, I feel like you just introduced me to a whole different section I didn't even know about. Like, I honestly always assume like after you just, get into it, you have to pay mortgage, insurance, and everything like that, and pay the bills. But I didn't even know anything about like separate funds and accounts and everything like that. So that's crazy. So yeah, I'll definitely look into going to school because they teach you stuff like about that during school in like realtor school, right? Oh, okay, so that's good. So it teaches you how to manage your properties as well. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Bare minimum, like I
Bare
said,
minimum,
it
yeah.
teaches you how to stay out of jail.
Yeah, okay. So I appreciate that. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Jennifer, what is the biggest challenge you faced in real estate so far?
So when I was on normal residential, it was definitely finding buyers. And I thought that was what we would forever do, is be like, hey, are you a local real estate agent? Let me show you 12 houses on a Saturday. Screw that. Who wants to do that on Saturday? Not me. And then now it's honestly always trying to find the next deal. I feel like I'm constantly chasing something, and it's never enough. It's kind of like an addiction.
Mhm.
Always another, and I always want more. So that's definitely my biggest hurdle right now, is being like, okay, when are we good? And when can we scale back a little bit? I haven't found that point. So we'll talk
I
about
found
it another
I
time.
found one of your Facebook posts kind of funny where you said like you work all this hard and then when you get old and die, your kids just take those properties and just sell it off.
Yes. I know that's going to happen too. I know it's going to happen because I'm going to create something wonderful over a course of like 10, 20 years. And then one day when I'm in an old folks home, they'll be like, we don't want to deal with tenants. Sell them off. And I'm like, traitors.
And what is your biggest tips? Like, what do you, whenever you're doing driving for dollars, what exactly are you looking for? Like that, hey, this is a good house to invest into.
Okay. So things I look for right away: the house is vacant. And that means I can see through the house, preferably, or all the blinds are drawn. Trash cans are out and it's not trash day. Lawn is high. There's notices on the door. Those are my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Things are falling off the house. Shutters, shingles, random pieces of wood. All those things tell me that that house is vacant or that it's in distress. And then I start calling.
Okay.
Or I just write it down and then pass it to a wholesaler who will put it on their call list and star it that it's mine. And then I want that one.
And they want to do seller financing that you do. And whenever let's say they're talking to the person and the person not even interested in seller financing, how do you convince the other person, the seller, to do seller financing with you? Like, where'd you learn how to do your negotiation skills?
So it's honestly finding what they need.
Mm-hmm.
Because if their biggest need is money, that seller financing thing might not hit right. If the sub 2, that's not going to hit right. But if you tell me that you are going through a divorce and your ex-wife is a bunt and she just destroyed your credit and you can't even like turn on your utilities because it's so bad, I'm like, I can help. I can fix that. I can take away all of this and make it so your credit goes up. As long as you don't do anything stupid, I can fix it for you. And then like, oh, tell me more. And then that's how that launches into the conversation. But if they just want cash, they're going to be better off just like selling outright. And they're not going to really listen to seller financing in regards to sub 2. You have to find somebody that's in distress. Good examples are their tenant came through and destroyed the house and they can't afford to fix it. So like a lot of military families around here.
Mm-hmm.
Bad divorces. Death. I don't want to say it, but like the husband died, the wife died, somebody died. That's a good one too, because nobody wants to deal with the house.
Yeah.
Generally, I don't like to deal with the house either because it comes with ghosts, but for the right price.
Yeah, I like that because I know Delano, he talked to me about like how he wholesaled the house, and a year
Mhm.
later, nothing happened to the house because they found out that the owner died that they wholesaled it to, and they're like, "What the hell?" And they talked to
Mm.
their kid, and he got it back, and basically he just bought the house and like fixed it up and did it himself. So yeah,
Mhm.
like things like that does happen. And what are your ways of finding contractors? Because people don't want to work, or there's a lot of like really expensive contractors out there.
There, there are. So honestly, when I find someone, I don't want to say I steal them, but I will. I feel like eventually I steal them, um, because they see that I will provide a good work environment.
Uh-huh.
I have high expectations of them, but fair expectations of them. They will always be paid because, like, if they aren't getting paid, they're not going to be happy and they're not going to stick around. So, like, you need to make sure you pay your people and you pay your
Yeah.
people accordingly. Um,
What's your tip on paying though? Is there something different that you do? Like, do you pay them after the work is done, or do you pay them while they're working?
so it depends. It definitely depends. So I have people that are 1099 employees. They get paid weekly. Um, if their stuff isn't up to snuff, I will
Mhm.
tell them their stuff isn't up to snuff. But also, like, if they need to take off a day because of a funeral or something, it's not a to do. They're just like, hey, Jen, tomorrow I've got a funeral. I told you about it the other day. I'm like, yep, no big deal. Do you want to make it up on Saturday? And if they say yes, cool, then they go work on Saturday and they get the same pay. I don't give you a differential. I do certain things though, like if we just got through a really, really shitty week and you were like the MVP, you will get a gift card or something like that. New boots. We'll take a trip and go get everybody new work boots, something like that. Be like, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing for this team, and I couldn't do this without you. Don't be afraid to be human, because like if you fuck up, say you fucked up.
Yeah.
If you're having a bad day, say you're having a bad day, and it is okay. Because guess what? They're gonna too, and we're all human. Just basically be a decent person and
And
make sure that you treat your people accordingly.
you run a whole construction crew. How would someone get started in doing that as well? What kind of do they need need to get like a GC license, or how does that work?
No. And so when you do a GC license, you are automatically under the thing of you know better and you should be doing better, just as like a real estate agent. So if you put in a ceiling fan, you better be pulling a permit, sir. So no, please don't come over here be a GC with me because we don't got time for that. But for me, it really starts like you don't have to have any experience to start working with me. We will teach you things, and I'd honestly prefer to teach you things because then you will learn the way that we like to do it, not the way that the outside world told you to do it, or Joe Schmo in the corner told you to do it. We'll teach you the right way to do it, or how we like to do it.
Okay. And what do you need anything for yourself, like any insurance or anything of that, or do you just like hire them like, hey, we're working? You don't need workers' comp or anything?
No, so I don't require any of that. I hold all of that. I prefer that you know how you're gonna get to work, but if you're like in our radius, sometimes when the guys will pick you up, just to carpool and everything like that. You don't need to have any of that. You need to come dressed professionally. I provide t-shirts, the whole 9 yards, but you need to have a pair of jeans, sneakers, something like that. We don't do work boots generally. Mostly it's just sneakers type deal thing, or if you want to wear, you can wear construction boots, but you don't have to have like the super serious ones.
Mhm.
I don't even wear those. I wear sandals during the summer. I wear Jesus shoes. And I'm like, oh, hopefully that didn't just drop in my foot.
So basically you just like take them in and they just work and you just pay them at the end. That's it, right?
Weekly. I pay you weekly.
Weekly.
Yeah.
Okay. And is there a certain I guess I'm trying to say is if you were to hire them and do all this, how do you protect yourself if anything does happen?
So they generally don't just get access to all my tools.
Mhm.
My head contractor, I bought a trailer. He bought the trailer from me and he has all his tools there. I have some of my own tools too. But generally all of his tools are the ones that are being used and they are counted and put back to make sure that they don't go sneaking off. That trailer is then taken to his house or my house, depending on where it is, and it's always locked. He has insurance, I have insurance, but you know, things still happen. Yeah.
Okay. And for I guess adding, isn't it like the top thing where you can only spend up to $30,000 on repairs? Or how do you get, what's the loophole behind that?
We divide it up. So if you bring me a flip and you're like, hey, this is it. And I'm like, okay, so the roofing crew over there, they've got this. The flooring crew over there got this. The painter over there's got this. The handyman's got this. The cabinet people got that. And we're done. And nobody has $30,000.
Wow. Okay. So you just separate it like that. Okay, nice. And what stops you from being a GC? Is it just like it's just more liability?
Yes.
Okay.
So I chose not to get my GC because it is more liability and it's a know better, do better thing. And I didn't want a hater coming into my world and being like, yo, you can't go change the light on your rental property in one afternoon. You're gonna get popped for that. I don't have time for that. I don't have time to pull permits when I just need to go change a fan on a rental.
Mhm. And how long does it take to pull permits? Like if you were to go to the county court or wherever?
Oh
the
gosh.
court- is it
So
like,
you have to take a drive down there, or you can fax them in, and then you can confirm and that they got them, and then you have to pay, and then they have to go out and they have to look at it. So a few days to potentially weeks.
now, can you do the project while you're getting the permit so you can kill two birds with one stone? No. Do you have any loopholes with that, or is it just like just suck it up?
So you're not allowed to do anything. So if you pull a permit for electrical, you're not allowed to touch any electrical or anything to do with electrical or anything to change electrical. So you just stop. You just stop. Yeah,
That's crazy.
it's horrible.
And do you also manage your own properties, or do you have a property manager?
So I have self-managed, and then recently, because I started getting more and doing more work and whatever, I decided that I wanted to go ahead and let somebody else take over. So Gil Jacobs is managing our properties.
Nice. Okay. And how do you vet your property manager, those that are looking for property managers as well?
So I'm very fortunate. Jill in the office, she's actually harder to pass than a home inspector.
Mhm.
Blessing and a curse. Blessing for me because the house is going to come back to me in a phenomenal condition. Curse because handing it over is literally the most painful thing. And at the end of it, I'm generally like, if this house doesn't pass, I'm just going to sell it. Screw it. I'm done. We're going to sell this house. And she's like, oh, we're good. Excellent work. And I'm like, oh God, swear to God, it only took a week and a half. It's absolutely horrible. But she goes through and she makes everything is perfect. And then she'll be like, you could have done better on that drywall spot. Can you hit that one more time? And you're like, I've done it 3 times. I've done it 3 times. One more time, just for you.
Nice. That's funny. And in the world of like technology these days, what softwares do you consistently use every day?
Nothing. I'm
Nothing.
old fashioned. I use a notepad. I run around with a legal pad and a pen, and then I just brain dump and write everything down. I do have like Google email and all of that, and Dotloop, DocuSign. That's about it.
Do you use the MLS as well, or do you just like not use
Not
that at
every
all?
day. Not every day. I do
Okay.
use it, but not every day.
Okay. And what makes you more productive? Do you have a thing that you do that helps you be productive as well?
Caffeine.
Caffeine. Okay. And I know you set quarterly goals as well. Can you talk about
Mhm.
that?
So I've read a whole bunch of different books, and I'm a big Grant Cardone groupie, and he
Mhm.
talks about like 10xing your goals. So that's actually how I started on it, and then I read the 12-week, what is it, 12-week year? Yes.
Yeah.
12-week year. I read that, and that one basically a synopsis. I love you too. Synopsis of it is everything that you wanted to do in a year, condense it into 12 weeks. And the worst thing that can happen is basically you don't hit all your goals. So that's what I did. And then just like they talked about is you feel like that push, you constantly want more. Like when you get to like say October, you're like, oh shit, I haven't done anything this year. Now I have to go ahead and do everything that I said I was going to do. Well, you feel that every 12 weeks. So then you accomplish more. So I do that. I set my goals, and then just about every single month, I also look at them and see if I need to adjust or if I need to bump them up a little bit.
Okay, nice. And is there any hard problems that money can't solve?
Love.
Love, wow.
That's all I got. That's all I got. Ooh. Money is definitely a big thing for a lot of real estate problems.
Mhm.
But like you can't make money fix bad title. You can't make it give you more family time. Ooh, I guess you can, because you can technically delegate a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Shelby Osborne would yell at me on that one. Be like, get rid of it. Get rid of it. So no, I don't think so. But I think it's also a mindset thing, because you don't need a lot of money to be happy. And honestly, like I'm very happy living a minimalistic lifestyle.
Nice. I like that. And what's your advice for an 18-year-old that wants to get financially free, but they don't know like the first step?
Read, definitely read, and go to your local investor meetups. Podcasts are great. Talk to someone that's smarter than you, because
Mhm.
if you are the smartest person in your room, you're in the wrong room. Get out of that room. Go find a different room. Don't be afraid to be different. That's like one thing that I wish like somebody would beat into my mind is like, it's okay not to go to college. It's okay to be an entrepreneur. It's okay to go do this weird off the wall thing. It's all right. There's so many other ways that you can make money in the world, like wholesaling. Thank you. There's so many other ways in the world that you can make money, like wholesaling. You don't need a college education. You don't need any fancy formal contracts. You don't need any crazy resources to go make $20,000 in literally a month off of one contract. You don't need any of that. And then you do that a few times a year and you are living well.
Nice. And what's an opinion that you have that not a lot of people agree with?
You don't get burnout.
Oh, okay. And do you have like the fear of FOMO as well? Like,
Yes, significantly. So I truly believe, just like Grant Cardone, that you don't get burnt out by what you love, and that the harder you push, and if your body reacts accordingly, you have more in the cap. You just haven't hit it yet, which is, who is it? Coggins, that Coggins guy who said that.
David Coggins.
Yeah. So when you basically push harder because you haven't hit your limit. So not everybody agrees with that, but for me, it's just like, today's a really bad day, but guess what? Could be 10 times worse. So we just go a little bit harder.
Now, what was the worst advice you were given?
In general?
Yeah.
Oh, it was by my mother, probably. Not real estate related. It was basically like, oh, go meet a wonderful man, let him take care of you, yada yada yada. Worst advice ever. Don't do that. Don't do that. Make your own fucking money. Find your own fucking happiness. In regards to real estate, probably go residential, because like people don't even think about that there's this whole other gray side where you can make so much more money. They just see this, oh, first time home buyer, big house, beautiful, yay, so happy. They're not the repeat client. The investor is. The investor is going to buy 10 to 12 houses every single year if you get the right one. And if not, I bet you he knows a couple friends and they'll buy 10 to 12 houses all together. they'll make you your money. That first time home buyer, they're going to make you $6,000 and then you're going to be done.
Nice. I love that. And we can now move on to the ending questions here, Jen.
Okay.
If you can go back in time
Mhm.
and tell your younger self something, what would it be?
Don't marry the man. I honestly, I'm glad that I didn't go to school for nursing because I would have hated my life. I cannot handle blood. I wish I would have found investing a whole lot sooner. I actually bought some books when I was a senior on rental properties, but I just barely breezed through them. I wasn't really fully involved. And then I never really found like Grant Cardone or, don't hate me, Dave Ramsey or any of those people until like the past 4 years. So definitely if I could have found some different mindsets in regards to finances compared to what I just grew up with, because I grew up with like a very low middle class mindset, which was pretty much Dave Ramsey, cash is king, don't take loans, save all your money, you never know when it's going to end, be super thrifty. So I still apply all of that today. It has probably also helped me be super successful, but I wish I'd also seen other ideas.
Yeah. Wow. And if you can ask your future self something, what would it be? Like a question.
What number did we stop at?
And properties?
Yeah. When was it enough?
Nice. And
'Cause
what do you
it's never enough. There's always one more.
There's
And then you
always
bring
one
me
more.
one more and I'm like, okay, let's do it. And then there's one more and you're like, okay, let's do it.
It's just
Never enough.
never ending.
No, it's an addiction.
And what do you think the secret sauce to being successful is?
Tenacity.
Tenacity.
Yeah. You gotta be like not afraid and like get out there and just do it and just go at it and just go for it hard and have a lot of grit, because some days like are going to be so freaking hard. And like my week I have dealt with, and it's a real estate week of hell. Okay. I have never had such a horrible week in real estate. Dead bodies, squatters, cops. And we turned around, and then I love my crews. And this is when I'm like, all the MVPs, because my little brain couldn't handle anymore. And I'm like, I'm taking the day off. When it finishes, it finishes. And they just went in, they scooped it up, and they flipped that house in a matter of a day. Cost me $250, and we're done. Tenants are moving in. Tenants got the keys today. Like nothing happened.
Wow.
So
Okay.
definitely having a crew that's not afraid to grind just as hard as you, but also you not being afraid to grind, because there's going to be days where you're like working like 14-hour days and you're like, is there a light? I don't know if there's a light. There's always a light though. And you
There
just
is.
plugging along, and you can't be afraid to get a little dirty.
And what is a quote that you live by every day?
Be better
Be better.
or do
Okay.
better. And my 3-year-old, he'll run around and yell at you because like there's always a situation where you can do better. And nothing hurts more than having a 3-year-old walk up to you and tell you did something shoddy, or you're not in a great mood and you're just being a butthead, and they're like, do better. And you're like, you're right. You're right. I need to do better. I need to do
Nice.
better. I deserve better. My family deserves better. I need to do better.
Yeah. I like that. And what books would you recommend for certain situations or parts of your life that you would recommend for people to read?
I'm a super Grant Cardone person.
Yeah.
So love his 10X. I've read that one a bajillion times. I think if you're trying to get out of debt and you have a lot of debt, don't go Grant Cardone. You need to go Dave Ramsey.
Mhm.
That's actually how I found him, because I was in a ton of debt. Go Dave Ramsey, because Grant Cardone is basically going to tell you to like spend all your money and go hard. And first you need to figure out how to save your money and be smart before you can spend all your money and go hard. I definitely like David Coggins too. Mel Gibson, right?
Yeah.
I like her. She's pretty good for mindset. And then there's other people here and there, but I'm all about Grant Cardone, 10X, staying motivated, and then his selling book.
Just a big Grant Cardone fan, I guess.
I am. I'm a groupie. One day I'll meet him.
All right. Before we move on to the last two questions, we have our special segment here where we do a thing called spinning the wheel. All right. So I spin the wheel here and let's see what you land on to.
No pressure.
All right. Do you have any funny story? It could be real estate related or it could just be personal.
Oh, goodness. For the week?
It could be anything. Yeah. Your life.
Ooh.
It doesn't matter.
Ooh, I am like the clumsiest person alive. So running joke on my crew, and this is also the reason why I don't wear construction boots, is because I trip and I fall so much over everything. So running joke is every house we do, Jen's gonna fall at least once. So generally it's off a bucket, off a ladder. Thankfully has not been off a roof, knock on wood. But if you see me and you think everything's going good and I'm on a ladder and you'd be like, oh gosh, it's gonna fall. I will fall. I don't know when it's gonna happen. And I'll just bloop. At Londonderry, brand new boots. I literally just tripped over my feet and spilled a gallon of paint across brand new flooring. I was so pissed. But I'm the clumsiest person alive. I will fall every single time, every single house.
Do you not plant both of your feet on the ground? Like,
No, like I don't know what's wrong with me. I just fall every single time.
all right. And the second to last question is what would you like to tell your kids if like 20 years from now they're listening into this?
Oh, that if they weren't around, that I probably wouldn't be doing this.
God.
I'm gonna be honest, like I want better for them. And I wanted to create something wonderful for them. So like if I died tomorrow, they were just like, oh, it's okay. Mom's got it. Mom got my college. Mom set me up. I don't have to worry. We're good. Yeah, I set you up because I want you to go to get school. Yeah. You don't want to go to school? You want to work with me? Okay. Apparently one's working with me.
There you go.
The rest can go to school. But I want them to know that like I set them up, and the whole reason I'm doing this is not for me in any single way. I love my job. I love the people that I work with. And that's one of the coolest things about my job is I get to choose who I work with. But I'm not doing this for me. I would be way happier most days if it was a whole lot less, but it's also like they pushed me to do more and want more. And if I croak tomorrow, I'm like, you got it. You'll be okay.
You're the only person that I know that used the word croak like consistently. Like I think it's more of like a southern thing or something. Like you're from New York. I don't know why I'm saying southern.
I've been down here for a while, and it's actually I had a conversation with a whole bunch of people last night that have been here for a while too that you know.
Yeah.
And we have come up with a decision that I'm quickly approaching the time when it goes from visiting to you are here forever and you are now a native. It's right around that 10-year mark.
10 years.
I'm 7 years.
7 years. Oh wow.
I know. I'm turning into a native.
You are. Well, lastly, how can people reach out to you?
So you have my email, jennifer.m.allums, ALLUMS @gmail.com. And then my phone number, 910-977-3900.
Nice. Wow, you took your phone number like that. That's cool.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna call me like another scammer?
No, you're all good. Do you even have, why don't you get one of those Google phone numbers?
I do. It's on my signs, which is how I track my signs.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jennifer, for coming out. And yeah, I can't wait until people give me their reaction of this podcast. So thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too.